Hey everybody, welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing. I am continuing my series on taking vocal stems or isolated solo vocals, and I'm doing a tutorial and a vocal analysis and also breaking down some of the recording process and some other things in between. So next up is Adele and Skyfall, but before we get there, if you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe to my channel. That'd be super awesome. I have a singing course. The course is called How to Sing Better Than Anyone Else. You can find it right here at kentamplinvocalacademy.com. I also have a free singing forum there with over 20,000 members with really good moderators where you can post questions about singing, specifically about my course, and everything in between. And it doesn't matter what age, what language, what level of singing you're at, the course and these tutorials along with the forums are for everybody. So I want to get started with Adele. We're just going to dive right in. Now, I did a version of this with my student Gabriella Gunchikova. I will put that in the description for you guys to check out. Gabby did an awesome job. Now, we chose to do something differently, Gabby and I, and we chose not to stay so ginger and light and head voicey on a lot of the stuff that Adele did. So we wanted to kind of power up into some of the upper parts and make them a little bit stronger, a little more powerful. And I think Adele actually has the perfect voice for a James Bond film because it just kind of has that vibe. So let's just dive in and check it out. Here we go.
This is the end. Hold your breath and count to 10.
Now, she has a very sultry kind of sound. By the way, I got my Skyfall, got planets falling, got skies falling, everything's falling. Falling in love with Adele. No, kidding. So anyway, so as we're going through this, I want to point out that she really approaches this kind of like a high Barry, like in my register. So my register says, "This is the end. Hold your breath and count to 10. I know she's got some extra little nuances there. We'll pick those out right now. But her approach is very gentle. Now, she's done a lot of smoking, cigarette smoking, drinking, I think, and kind of just a lot of abuse to her voice. So on the one hand, that's kind of helped her a little bit with her vocal tone. That's true. She's also gone through a couple of surgeries. I believe it was Steven Zeitels that did her laser work. He's one of the best otolaryngologists on the planet. He's out of Boston. If you're having trouble, I highly recommend Steven. I've worked with him with a few clients that have really benefited from his services. But guys, before you go to surgery, trust me, we can rehabilitate way before surgery. So don't just go jumping straight into surgery because you're having some vocal issues, or think because you have a polyp or node or lesion that means surgery, okay? But anyway, so she's had that. But so it gives it, while it adds to her tone, it also adds to some of the thinness of her sound and forfeiting range and some other things like that too. So in some cases too, her voice gets a little shrill and a little harsh at times for me in her upper register. But let's listen to the nuance again. We'll go through the intro. Check it out. Here we go.
This is the end.
She goes, "This is the end.
Hold your breath and count to 10.
Hold your breath." She goes, "Hold your breath and count to 10. Right? So she's got a lot of inflections that you don't really notice unless you get a solo isolated vocal like this and you pick it apart. And I never really noticed it that much until and by the way, this is the first time I've listened to this, but I didn't notice that until we're going through this. So let's listen to that part one more time.
Hold your breath and count to 10.
Hold your breath and count to 10.
Hold your breath and count to 10.
Count to 10.
Feel the earth move and then.
Now that feel the earth move and then, right? That is what I mean by the ultimate James Bond voice. It's so sultry. I could see the silhouette of the dancing girls going by with James. Dun, you know, dun 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 dun. Couldn't you kind of hear that? Look with this line. Check it out.
Feel the earth move and then.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Hear my heart burn.
Hear my heart. Right? Now, it's kind of funny because in some ways, she has kind of a more of a white version of Aretha Franklin in the way she approaches her stuff. But she does have some Aretha in her soul, in her approach, in covering some of her vowel sounds. And I really love that. I think it's really neat, man. And way back, to her earlier stuff, I've just always admired that about her voice. So, even Rolling in the Deep. By the way, we have a Rolling in the Deep now that's doing really, really good with Kayla Reeves. So check that out. So, in fact, I'll put any of the Adele stuff that we've done, I'll put that in the description so you guys can check that out. And did I do a version of Skyfall? No, I did. I don't forget. I've sung so many songs, but I'll put Kayla Reeves' version of the Adele song that we did in there as well. Kayla's kick butt. She's a great Trans-Siberian Orchestra singer I've had the privilege of working with lately, and good stuff, man.
Hear my heart burst again, for this is the end.
Now she goes, again. So I'm not sure she did why didn't go, again. So, she had an artistic choice there. Wouldn't have been my first choice, but it's her and it sounds cool.
I've drowned and dreamt this moment.
Now, sometimes she sounds like she has cotton in her mouth, and it's kind of a newer thing that a lot of newer artists do, where they really under-accentuate some of their consonants. Feel my heart moving in, right? So you want to be kind of, if you're going to do this sound. And by the way, you berries out there, you guys, there's no reason you can't sing this song. It's well within your range, and you tenors, man, should be able to kill this thing. So ladies, if anything, it might be hard for some girls to sing this stuff because it's in the high baritone range. So it's pretty interesting how low of a voice she actually has. But listen to the slurring. You'll hear it again.
I've drowned and dreamt this moment.
Hear that?
So overdue I owe day.
Now, it's kind of interesting too. She does have a pretty good command of her diaphragm, but she's not using it on this song for some reason, and it could be because she's choosing to want it to sound really throaty. So it's not like, feel the movement. She's going, feel the movement. She's real throaty and real small on the sound. So she's choosing not to get, round or big on the sound. And it's her call, it's her choice. But I can really tell that she does have some decent diaphragmatic support control. She's just choosing not to use it for whatever reason.
So overdue I owe day.
Can you see what I mean? A lot of reverb.
Swept away, I'm stolen.
Now, do you hear this really ethereal reverb? She's soaking in this. So moving on and then, and just, whoa, it's really dreamy and makes you feel like you're hearing this, right? Like you're kind of swimming in this stuff, right?
Swept away, I'm stolen. Let the sky fall.
Now she does something interesting with her ahs. I don't know why she does this too, but it's her style. Instead of sky fall, it's just real pretty to go, let the sky fall. But she goes, sky fall, oh. So she goes, oh, 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 oh. Right? For whatever reason, she does it. It's her style and it sounds cool. When I do it, it sounds like, oh, 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 oh. But she gets away with it and it sounds good.
Let the sky fall when it crumbles. We will stand tall and face it all together. Let the sky fall when it crumbles. We will stand tall and face it all together.
Now, if you notice, like I said, she's not going in any belted chest sound. The sky fall, let it crumble. We will stand tall, face it all together. She's staying in head voice most of the time. She does mix a little and come back down into chest. But for the most part, she's real gentle on it. She's not sky fall, crumble. Adele. Now that would take away from the song. I get it. And there's a balance in between the skyfall, crumble, right? She's not hitting it that hard. She's really, really backed off the sound a lot. Listen to it. The reverb makes up for it and makes it sound bigger than she's actually singing. Check it out.
The sky falls when it crumbles.
Hear that?
We will stand tall and face it all together at skyfall.
At sky falls. I love those little cracks in there.
At skyfall. At skyfall. Skyfall is where we start.
Now I like this part too because it kind of picks up, and when you hear the band, like, unfortunately, Adele is one of the blockers, so we were lucky to even get this track. But if I could have put this in the track, I would have wanted you to do it to hear how much the instrumentation and the orchestration creates the energy, and it makes you think the singer's giving you the energy, when in fact it's really the orchestration giving you all the energy, and she's getting the benefit of, it reminds me a lot of, too, like if you hear a lot of Black African choirs, for example. I frequent in quite a few of them. And the pastor who's singing, or whomever the lead vocalist is, they get the... And I said, Lord, give it a 7 and no. And I said, Lord, and so you've got all this energy coming from the choir itself, making you think that pastor or lead vocalist or whatever is doing all the work, when in fact they're just kind of like throwing out some stabs and kind of talking, shucking and jiving a bit, when in fact it's the choir doing all the work. And in this case, the orchestra, is what's really buttressing and holding up and pushing all this energy through. And then the sound too is, I love all these. I thought I had my guitar here, but all these, half-stepped stuff. Da, 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 da. All these half-step chordal things that bring a lot of tension into the sound too. So it's real kind of dark and ethereal and mysterious. So that adds to the mystery of the energy as well. So I thought I'd bring all that up so you hear what I'm talking about.
Skyfall is where we start.
She picks it up a little bit.
1,000 miles and poles apart.
And I love it. 1,000 miles and poles apart. She's got all that sound, like she's gonna lose her voice. but it works, right?
Fall is where we start.
A lot of reverb.
1,000 miles and poles apart.
A lot of delay.
Where worlds collide and days are dark. You may have my number, you can take my name, but you'll never.
Now, I want you to listen really closely because it could be really deceiving on how loud someone's singing or how hard someone's pushing. I did a tutorial on Brad Delp from Boston, and for those of you guys that don't know who he is, whatever. But there's an illusion when you hear Brad Delp sing that he's singing a lot louder and heavier than he really is. There's also this same illusion here with Adele. Listen closely to this. Check this out.
You may have my number, you can take my name.
You may have my number, you can take my name. Real gentle on that. It sounds a lot bigger, and then when she hits the word heart, it's soaking in reverb. Like it says, it sounds real cavernous or like a big, huge hall or arena or something, but it's really not. She's not hitting it that hard at all. It's the reverb doing all the work, plus the band, if you were to hear the band. Check it out, listen close.
You may have my number, you can take my name, but you'll never have my heart. Let the sky fall.
So she goes, heart, right? She's not singing, heart. She's not hitting it, right? She's she's just real gentle on it, and she's not really building. So when I did this with Gabriella, I chose to go ahead and like really lean into the sound, and I actually like the way we did it kind of a little better because there was more tension, more energy, more power, more authority in the sound. But then again, I think in the movie soundtrack they were looking for something more ethereal, like I said, more dreamy, and they got it. Of course, it's James Bond, but anyway. So
but you'll never have my heart. Let the sky fall. When it crumbles, we will stand tall. Face it all together. Let the sky fall. When it crumbles, we will stand tall.
Tall. She's like so sensitive on it. Like there's no tall. Face it all together. Rainbows in the night. You know, I don't hear any of that.
Face it all together at skyfall. Let the sky fall. When it crumbles, we will
I
stand
think that might be end. Let's check it out here. No, it's more.
Let the sky fall.
Yeah, I think this, you know. So anyway, you guys, so you can tell how we break all this stuff down. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with singing like that. I mean, Billie Eilish is making a giant career of singing really light. She's singing, her later stuff's kind of really cool. It's really jazzy, you know, like early Ella Fitzgerald-y kind of, a lot of vibrato, really soft tones, you know. But anyway, this is definitely a style, but we've heard her sing, Adele sing in heavier tones too. So again, maybe there was a lot of stuff where the composer and maybe the producer of the song, whatever, said, hey, this is how we want it to sound and we don't want it to be too aggressive. But I remember too, you know, when I heard Chris Cornell, you know, and he did You Know My Name, that's a major kick butt track too. So they picked some really interesting artists to accentuate and take James Bond to different places. So thank you for joining me, gang, and check out my next video.
Sky